need the ability to share my
This
screen,
meeting is
Steph,
being recorded.
if you can help me with that.
I'll do that right now for you. Sorry about the timing there.
Yeah, right as I'm being recorded.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
It'll be a fun start for the meeting for everybody. So with that,
Excellent.
there we go. Amazing.
Perfect. So I'll kind of jump off here with a bit of a context. So welcome everybody to
Oh,
our
Jeff, if
PC.
you don't mind. Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm just going to do the quick housekeeping and then we'll jump into the presentation for tonight. I won't steal too much of the spotlight because looking at everyone here, I think everyone knows how this will go anyways, but nonetheless, good evening, everyone. We're here for the application for 366 Winona Avenue today. You'll probably note that this application came in the fall. We were originally trying to set up a meeting for then, but as you might know, the election blackout period came into effect, which essentially means we cannot hold any public meetings like these kinds of open houses. So we've sort of caught up with them since then, and this is one of them. So if you're wondering about the timing and looking at the dates, that's why you're seeing this now. Of course, the applicants and the planner are fine with hosting this open house now and are still taking comments on the submission. So, no time lost to get those comments in and have them recorded. And for anyone who hasn't been to one of these meetings before, I'll run through it very quickly because I think most do. So how we'll start off and what Jeff is just about to jump into is a presentation, probably about 10-20 minutes on planning rationale for this application. And as soon as he's done, we're just going to jump into a Q&A for the rest of the meeting, as long as it may take. We cap them at 2 hours, so everyone knows how much time we're playing with tonight. Since it's a smaller meeting, what we've done is promoted everybody to panelists, which means everyone has the ability to unmute themselves in the Q&A and ask their questions audibly. Of course, if there's anyone here who's not comfortable doing that, I see some people whose names I don't, quite recognize. So if you'd still like to submit your, questions, you can use the Q&A or you can chat with me, whichever you feel more comfortable with. But the Q&A is probably the easier option in that case. And how we'll proceed after that is just we'll go through raised hands and I'll have a speakers list going, and that's how we're going to proceed with taking questions. We might have a bit of back and forth in a meeting as small as this. It'll be fine, but we just ask that you be mindful of other attendees who might have questions and that sort of etiquette, just so everyone can get the information they might be looking for. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff Kelly with Novatech as the applicants for this file to go ahead and offer us their presentation. So, floor is yours.
All right, thanks very much, Steph. So I'll just go forward here with a bit of a context of the property. So everybody can see my screen. I think it's good. So yeah, so the subject property, it's located in an area bounded by Whitby Avenue to the north, Richmond Road to the south, Athlone Avenue to the east, and Churchill Avenue north to the west. To the north, south, and east along Winona Avenue is primarily characterized by a mix of low-rise residential uses and small-scale commercial uses. A mix of low-rise residential and commercial uses are located to the west along Churchill Avenue north. Further to the south along Richmond Road are a mix of low-rise retail, restaurant, commercial, and office uses. With respect to transportation connections, the subject property is located within 600 meters radius from the planned Kitchissippi and Westboro LRT stations. Bus Route 11 is located along Richmond Road and is designated as a frequent transit route offering high-frequency bus service within walking distance of the subject property. Richmond Road, Churchill Avenue North, and Scott Street will provide connections to the city's active transportation network from the subject property. With respect to the official plan designation, subject property is designated neighborhood and evolving neighborhood overlay in the inner urban transect of the official plan. Subject property is also located within the boundary of the Richmond Road Westboro secondary plan. policies of the official plan are supportive of low-rise residential apartment buildings on the subject property. With respect to the zoning, the subject property is zoned residential 4th density subzone UB, and it's located within the mature neighborhoods overlay in the City of Ottawa zoning bylaw. Current zoning on the property permits development of a low-rise apartment building up to 11 meters in building height. So based on the existing and planned context, the official plan designation and zoning, subject property is a suitable location for low-rise residential intensification. With respect to the proposal, it is proposed to develop 2 3-story apartment buildings, each containing a total of 8 dwelling units on the subject property. There's no resident or visitor parking spaces provided. A total of 10 enclosed bicycle parking spaces are provided within the rear yard, and that would be 5 for each proposed building. Additional bicycle parking spaces are being considered if we can fit them. I will also note that the plan before you has been updated in response to comments from the community and from city staff. The key modification here was to provide fully conforming interior side yard setbacks where the property abuts neighboring lots along the north and south property lines. And I will provide some more details on that shortly. So with respect to the applications before the city, minor zoning bylaw amendment application is required to facilitate the proposed development of each proposed building through establishing site-specific zoning provisions, which include a decrease to the minimum required lot width, a decrease to the minimum required lot area, a decrease to the minimum required front yard setback, a decrease to the minimum required rear yard setback, a decrease to the minimum required rear yard area, and a decrease to the minimum required interior side yard setback between the proposed buildings. Separate applications to the Committee of Adjustment are also required to sever the lots in order to facilitate the proposed development on the subject property. And with that, I will highlight a few additional details of the requested zoning. So first, regarding the provision of no resident or visitor parking, provisions of the zoning bylaw do not permit off-street motor vehicle parking for lots with less than 450 square meters in area. Subject property will be severed to create 2 new lots that are each less than 450 square meters in area. So no off-street parking spaces would be permitted for the proposed development. A minimum visitor parking space rate of 0.1 spaces per dwelling unit is required after the first 12 units. And the subject property will be severed to create 2 new lots that will each contain a total of 8 dwelling units. So no off-street visitor parking spaces are required for the proposed development. Secondly, regarding the reduced lot width. So the provisions of the zoning bylaw require a minimum lot width of 10 meters for a low-rise apartment dwelling with a maximum of 8 dwelling units. The existing lot is proposed to be severed into 2 new lots through separate applications to the Committee of Adjustment. So the proposed lot width for each newly created lot would be 9.91 meters, which is a reduction of 0.09 meters from the requirement. There are examples of recently constructed multi-unit dwellings in the immediate area that have lot widths that are less than required by provisions of the zoning bylaw. So a minor reduction to the required lot width for each proposed lot would not result in issues providing appropriate building area or building setbacks from surrounding lots. Third, regarding the reduced lot area, the provisions of the zoning bylaw require a minimum lot area of 300 square meters for a low-rise apartment dwelling with a maximum of 8 dwelling units. The existing lot is proposed to be severed into 2 new lots through separate applications of the Committee of Adjustment. So the proposed lot area for each newly created lot would be 299.5 square meters, which is a reduction of 0.5 square meters from the requirement. A 0.5 square meter reduction to the required lot area is a minor reduction from the zoning provisions and will not result in issues providing appropriate building area, building setbacks from surrounding lots, and amenity areas for residents. I also note that outdoor amenity space is provided for residents in the front yard and the rear yard of the proposed building, as well as several public amenity areas located within walking distance of the subject property. Fourth, with respect to the reduced front yard setback, provisions of the zoning bylaw require a minimum front yard setback of 4.5 meters on the subject property. The front yard setback provided for each proposed building is approximately 4 meters. So as highlighted on the image before you in yellow, the proposed buildings have been designed with the central point of the front facade recessed to meet the required 4.5 meter front yard setback. And then as indicated on in orange on the image before you, a small triangular portion of the facade for each building will encroach into the required front yard setback by approximately 0.5 meters. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will permit a reduction to the required front yard setback for each proposed building that reflects a more urban condition and provides direct pedestrian access to the sidewalk, being in proximity to planned rapid transit and higher density developments that are anticipated in the area. Fifth, regarding the reduced rear yard setback and reduced rear yard area. Provisions of the zoning bylaw require a minimum rear yard setback of 7.5 meters. The rear yard setback provided for the proposed buildings is 7.05 meters for Lot A and 7.01 meters for Lot B. As highlighted in yellow on the image before you, the proposed buildings have been designed with the central point of the rear facade recessed to provide a rear yard setback of approximately 7.5 meters. Similar to the front yard condition, and as shown in orange, a small triangular portion of the rear facade would encroach into the proposed rear yard setback by approximately 0.5 meters for each proposed building. The rear yard setbacks provided from the proposed buildings to the west property line will provide appropriate separation from any future development on abutting lots. And with respect to the rear yard area, provisions of the zoning bylaw require the rear yard to comprise 25% of the total lot area. In this case, relief from the zoning provision is required to decrease the minimum required rear yard area by 1.5% to 23.5%. Noting that there are several public amenity areas within walking distance of the subject property, a 1.5% reduction to the required rear yard area is a minor reduction from the zoning provisions. Sixth, with respect to the reduced interior side yard setback, provisions of the zoning bylaw require a minimum interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters. So you'll see a small portion of each proposed building has been designed to project into the required interior side yard setback by 0.3 meters to 1.2 meters. The requested reduction to required interior side yard setbacks for each lot is necessary to facilitate barrier-free access to the building entrances. Through working with city staff, the requested reduction to the interior side yard setback for each lot has been revised to occur along the shared lot line between the two lots that will be created by severances. The interior side yard setback provided along the north and south property lines is a minimum of 1.5 meters at the central entrance for each building. An interior side yard setback of 1.8 meters is provided in the remaining portion of the north and south lot lines to ensure adequate separation from existing buildings on abutting lots. A minor reduction to the required interior side yard setback along the shared property line will not result in issues for residents accessing the rear yard through the shared central walkway or individual walkways that are located along the north and south property lines. So with that, I will shift to discussing the design approach for the proposed development. So with respect to building design, I'll just provide a brief overview of what's being proposed by our client and discuss some of the high-level design approach that has been used in order to create a form and scale development that is intended to fit well with the existing and planned context along Winona Avenue and within the surrounding community. So here we have a view of the proposed development looking north along Winona Avenue. And as previously mentioned, Winona Avenue is anticipated to experience a transition to higher density, low-rise built forms that would surround the subject property. Churchill Avenue North and Richmond Road are anticipated to transition to higher density mid-rise built forms. That's located over to the west. The proposed development of 2 low-rise apartment buildings is designed to complement the existing character of the neighborhood and to provide an appropriate scale, which transitions to planned higher density mid-rise development along Churchill Avenue North, Richmond Road, and with the planned rapid transit station located further to the north. Here we have a view of the proposed development looking south along Winona Avenue. As you'll note from this image, the proposed development is designed with each building referencing the scale of adjacent buildings along the Winona streetscape. This approach is intended to complement the existing development patterns in the area and is intended to help the building fit well within the community. And here you have an image looking west along Winona. So I'll just make a note here that the zoning provisions permit a maximum building height of 11 meters on the subject property. The proposed buildings are each a total height of 9.68 meters and are fully conforming with provisions for building height. With respect to the building design, the principal building facades and walkways to main entrances are oriented with direct connections to Winona Avenue. There is soft landscaping proposed where bordering proposed interlocked walkways that lead to main entrances for each building, and where front yard terraces are designed to contribute to a naturalized edge that fronts along the public realm along Winona Avenue. The building facades are designed to be well articulated and would be comprised of high quality materials such as glass, metal panel, and red brown brick facing along Winona Avenue and towards abutting properties to the north and south. There are recesses provided in the facade that are clad with metal panel using a darker palette. This is intended to accent the building entrances, some window openings, and the grade level amenity spaces to provide a look and feel that is compatible with existing characteristics of the surrounding community. And with that, I'd just like to thank everybody for their attention, and I'll look forward to comments from members of the community.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So with that, we'll go into our Q&A for tonight. A handful of people have shown up since the presentation started. So I'll just reiterate, since we're in a smaller meeting tonight, I'll just be sending a request to all of you to become a panelist. That means you'll be able to speak audibly if you'd like to ask your questions to Jeff or to city staff, whichever it may be. So I'll send those now, and I'll just remind everyone that how we'll proceed with speaking is just a speakers list through raised hand functions. I don't see any raised hands so far or any questions in the Q&A. And now I see a raised hand, so that's perfect. So I just ask that everyone do that, and it's absolutely fine if we have a bit of back and forth in asking some questions, but I just remind everyone to be aware of anyone else who might have a question, of course, just so that we can allow everyone the chance to ask a question and perhaps get the information or answers they're looking for. So with that, Len, if you'd like to go first, the floor is entirely yours.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Just a few questions here. I guess what we have now is, as the Jeff presented, a street that's going to undergo a total, I guess, renewal, much like Dominion and Berkeley that we've seen in the community. And because I know another property that's up for sale, and I know another property that's been bought and that's going to be up for viewing soon. So we're getting this domino effect of complete renewal. However, there are houses that are in there right now that are adjacent to these properties. I mean, I really don't have an issue with the setbacks. Obviously, no families are intended to. Are these 1 unit, 2 unit? First off, are these 2 room units? I mean, bedrooms plus living room. Jeff, I haven't looked at the interior design. So what type of occupant do you expect to live in there?
I believe they are each unit there's 2 units on each floor, and each one would be a 1-bedroom unit.
Right. So we're talking single, or maybe one or 2 people living in those places right now. So probably a high turnover. Are these rentals, just to confirm?
Yes, they are. They'll be rental units.
Okay. One question with respect to the bikes. Are these is it fit the space to have a motorcycle or a motorized scooter? Is there enough space in there for that, or just?
I'd have to circle back with our client on that. I don't have the answer to that right here. I know that each parking structure in the rear yard for bicycles has room for five bicycle parking spaces.
Yeah, so there's no room for any sort of motorized vehicle. I'm not talking a car. I'm talking, say, someone who wanted to come in with a motorcycle. I'm curious about that.
So I'll just help with that, Len, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
The bicycle parking that's being provided in the rear yard is only for bicycles, and it's there to meet the requirement of the city to provide bicycle parking. It certainly would not be available for motorcycles. A motorized bicycle could certainly park back there, but It's specifically intended to accommodate bicycles.
Okay, that's fine, Joe, and I appreciate that. Just wanted to clarify that. With respect to privacy and that, now we're talking scale. I know like I said, I just talked about those two streets and many other streets that are going on, like Ravenhill Renewal. So with the height in that, I noticed there's a 1-story next door, 1.5-story. The side windows in this building, are they? Do you have to get on your tippy toes to look out and look down on people? How many windows are along the side? Is there any sort of, you probably looked at privacy, but can you look straight out? So I'm looking at them right now. So they'll be looking straight. You can be in a living room or a bedroom and you're looking straight into the house next door, correct?
Well, I want to be very careful about how we characterize this, and I also
Yeah.
want to be very careful about going down this path. Nothing before us this evening in terms of the zoning relates to the configuration of windows or doors on these buildings. We're dealing with zoning. We're not dealing with
Right.
site plan. This project is not subject to site plan approval.
Okay.
The windows, the walls are set back 1.8 meters from the property line for the bulk of the side yards. So there's a reasonable separation distance. And once you have that reasonable separation distance, it creates the opportunity to have windows to provide light to the interior spaces of the building. So what you're seeing conforms to the zoning, conforms to the building code.
Right.
We really don't get into a discussion about looking into other people's windows.
I'm just saying, like, I'm just talking scale. I'm just, I'm not going to challenge you on this. I'm just asking. Are the windows treated with any sort of reflective, privacy? Like I know with my house that most of the day you can't see right in from the street. And because I noticed in the frontal diagram, it showed a reflection of the street through the windows. So sometimes there's a treatment that provides some privacy on that. So I'm just thinking streetscape, how it might look and that. So whether it's privacy for the people that will be living there, vice versa. So I don't know if those were in the design considerations.
Well, that's certainly something that our client could consider.
Right. The other thing I'm looking at is the street. It looks pretty good from the front. I mean, I just see the tree and the flower bed and everything. But the surfaces surrounding, I guess, interlock, and are we talking pavement that goes around in between the building for the bikes to get in and out? So just wondering what the look is for that. And then the warmth. I know that I see the nice brick, and then there's a stark black. Now, one thing I noticed with some of these dark gray tones and that, we talk streetscape, fitting in, warmth. We've seen stuff on Ravenhill, which is very gray and dark. I don't know I know you've got a black in contrast. The red brick is warm. There might be other options, to bring some more warmth to the streetscape, right, from this building. I have no real problem personally with the building, but I'm just sort of saying, one thing that I talked with on another project was like, hey, we could probably warm up the facades a little more, sort of thing, because the houses, you got some whites, you got some different colors around, right, rather than a stark red with black. Anyway, over to you.
Well, and all I'll say is we'll take that away. The palette of materials used for the external treatment of the building is very subjective, and everybody in this meeting would probably have a different perspective on it. I think that our client and his designer, and Jeff, if you want to go to the 3D rendering that from the looking north on Winona that you had up, it's a combination of materials that I think fits on the street. We all have a different opinion as to whether the choice of color is right or wrong, or could be better or worse, but I'm not sure that we're all ever going to agree on a color palette.
We may not, but I mean, there's something that is, like I said, been with the community association 3 years, and I've seen you know, I've lived in the neighborhood for 23 years, and I watch, how would you say, total renewal of streets. The one thing we're missing from other communities, and this is just out loud, whether, you know, you don't have to answer, you know, but I think from a general city perspective, they don't really give a guideline to warmth and how things look. It's one thing to put up a multiple structure. I'm cool with that. Intensification is coming, got it. But you know, so like, hey, we all talk about the Westboro we love. We all talk about the city, the walkability, the feel, the vibe. Is there any commonality out there? I mean, obviously, I know Novatech has represented numerous clients. This is one issue that I have not seen. Although I was under a I would say an NDA with another building, another developer, and they're saying, yeah, we hadn't really thought about that. And you know, you look at, okay, once you get the approval, you put the structures up, they're good. Even for the residents inside and the people around, you know, it's that energy feel of Westboro rather than just having contrasting buildings of different feel. What's the feel? You know, we're not the brownstones of Boston. We are not New England. We are not other places in Montreal or down in the Danforth or up in St. Lawrence and College in Toronto. But what is the feel here that you sense? When you put these forward, what is your sense of how it fits into the feel and warmth of Westboro? And whether that's not a required answer, but it'd be something that it'd be worth hearing. That's all.
So we'll take that away. You know, Jeff and I didn't design the buildings. Somebody else is the designer of the
Right.
building and choice the color palette, but we'll take that away.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's just a point. Maybe the chair here, Heather, other people may say things, but I just think for all of us who are stakeholders in the development of this community, live here, build here, leave a legacy here, what are we looking for? What's this centralizing warmth? I don't hear it anywhere, but I do know that there are irritations amongst the community of some structures, you know, that are stark, not quite brutish or whatever the brutalism that we saw with the NAC, but that sort of thing. That's all. That's it for me. Thank you.
And I'd be interested in having maybe an offline conversation with you, and if Heather is of the same opinion, just to chat about, you know, buildings that you like in the neighborhood that have been developed over the last 5 or 10 years. And then once you don't, I'd like to get a sense as to, you know, is there a consensus that we can inform our clients going forward? So maybe we'll have that conversation offline sometime over the next month or two.
Yeah, you know, Murray, I'm fully open to that. That's great, because I think and we just had our AGM on Wednesday, and we had John Thomas, a developer who also lives on Golden Avenue, and you know, he wants, you know, like all developers, they want to build and be the project to be accepted. They know change. Listen, for all of us, change can be an irritant for some people. We got that, but once we get over that and we have a vision of where it's going, that we're gonna look after the warmth. We're gonna context. There's some consensus. I don't feel that yet, but it's a worthwhile discussion, and that John Thomas brought up as well. These who's building some large, who built the one on the large structure Azure, which is now Bridgeville on the corner of Richmond and Woodruff, and now he's got another one going up on Scott Street, and there are other projects in his pipeline as well. But you know, we're all in this together, and we shouldn't be adversarial. I'm definitely not of that point of view, because I believe the development system is broken, and all of us create the community, both developers and people who buy and rent and everything. We all have a piece of this. So coming together, like you were suggesting there, Murray, and looking at and try and find consensus, you know, on this sort of issue would be worthwhile. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lynn, and thank you, Murray, for the answers on the back and forth. Just to make sure, and just to, I think this will be good to set sort of the grounds for discussion for everyone. This won't have a site plan with all the new changes under Bill 23, correct? I'm assuming they're linked to that.
That's correct. We had filed a site plan application.
Mhm.
That file was closed as a result of the Bill 23 changes. So the city closed hundreds of site plan files, including this one.
Okay. No, I remembered there was discussion on one of this kind of smaller files we got that the SPC had been pulled. So just for, I think, the benefit of anyone who maybe seen it gone up and has now seen it disappear, knows that that's the reason why. And then obviously that impacts how we guide this discussion. Obviously it's a rezoning, but of course people may have comments more related to SPC, and we'd welcome any consideration of them, given that we won't be hosting those meetings where they don't apply anymore. But that's more, an FYI, a PSA for anyone who might not be aware. In that case, Heather still has her hand up. So if you'd like to go next, and then I'll jump to one of the questions in the Q&A that we've got.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. It's nice to see everyone. Nice to see you, Murray. I would like to first ask, are there any neighbors nearby? Because I would like them to go first rather than the community association. Are there any neighbors on the call? No, we don't know. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the, oh, sorry.
I was going to say, we've got plenty of time if anyone wants to raise their hand or type up a question to be read out as well. So
okay.
I'll keep note.
Yeah, so there's no, so help me out with this, guys, Jeff and Murray. Are there neighbors in the back? There's no neighbors in the back, or is that an industrial, like it's a commercial building in the backyard, right?
I think it's a low-rise apartment building, and then there's a couple commercial units as well. I don't know exactly how they line up.
Yeah, I know there's definitely commercial units there. And I know on either side you've got neighbors, but you've also got neighbors on the street. What is it called? Sorry, I'm going to have to look it up. So my question though basically is, have you reached out to the neighbors and talked to them about this project?
So this forum was intended to provide that opportunity, Heather,
Okay.
and
Okay.
there have been comments from the neighbors received by Masha on the file. They relate to the the setback of the buildings, which is one of the reasons why we've adjusted the site plan so that it's fully conforming, but actually exceeding the interior side yard setback for both the neighbors to the north and south.
Okay, I just want to make sure you've talked to them. And also there would probably be a neighbor on Whitby who the neighbors on Whitby might be affected as well. So I just wanted to make sure they knew that you'd heard from them. If not, we can just, pass along this information. And if they haven't contacted you, if they have any questions, they can. I like the roof, that the roof is not flat. Thanks for that. A lot of neighbors prefer that. The balconies on the front are great. There's balconies on the back. Yeah. Balconies on the back, Jeff?
I will confirm. 1 second.
Yeah, I think I saw some. So the entrance to these buildings is going to be. Aha, yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes, excellent. No, that's good. Thank you. And the entrance to the building is on the side or on the front?
So the ground floor units at the front are accessible directly from the street at the front. The remainder of the buildings are accessible from the entrance on the side.
Going through the side. And where's the garbage picked up, Murray?
The garbage is collected in the rear yard and picked up at the street.
Okay, so there's access. They're able to get down there.
Yeah, just like the bicycle access, the garbage bins will be rolled out to the street every week.
Okay. Okay, I see that. But there might be space for that. No, it looks great. I'm just this how it aligns with the setbacks in terms of the other street other houses. I don't know. They're pushed out a little bit, are they?
Jeff, do you want to go back to the site plan? I think the answer to that is they're very much in line
Yeah, okay,
with the buildings to the north and the south.
okay, that's fine then. No, I don't, I'm like Len, I don't see anything, I don't see anything that raises any flags here at all. I'm gonna trust that you're gonna plant those trees. I like the trees.
I'll do my best to make sure my client does that.
Thank you, and to make sure that they don't die 2 years later, if we can arrange that. I just need to make
Actually, I
sure,
think through the building permit process, I think that the city's going to be able to secure that now.
okay, that's great. No, I think it's from my point of view, I don't give opinions on design or architecture, but I think it fits in, you know, we like the brick. Neighbors like the brick, neighbors will like the sloped roofs rather than a flat roof. It makes it a little warmer looking. The soft landscaping is good. It looks good. The only thing I want to make sure is there'll be no effort to put a basement apartment in later on down the line. We're going to stick with the 8 dwellings each side.
So there already are 2 units in the basement with the 8. So
Okay.
it's 2 units per floor, 2 in the basement and 2 each floor above. So
Okay,
8
thanks,
units,
Marie.
8 units is what's being shown.
Okay.
There would be no room to add units to this concept.
Thank you. It just, you, as you may know, Murray, that sometimes people put in units afterwards.
I've been behind several of those applications. I
And-
know exactly what you're referring to.
We kind of don't like that. So.
I understand.
So thank you for that. No, that's really good. It looks good. Put lots of bicycle parking. I will just warn you that neighbors are often concerned that there is no parking in these apartment buildings. Some neighbors are worried that it will cause people to park on the street or the nearby streets. However, we've seen a lot of these buildings where there is no parking and it's strictly bike oriented, and you're so close to transit here. From my personal point of view, that's fine, but I'm just telling you that neighbors often are a little uncomfortable with it. Other than that, I have nothing to say about this. I think it's great.
So Heather, just on the parking, to reiterate what Jeff said in his presentation, even if we wanted to provide parking, we can't because the
Yeah,
R4 zoning prohibits it on
yeah,
a project of this scale.
yeah. No, I have no problems with that. As I say, I'll mention that to any neighbors that offer a concern. Yeah,
Thank you.
looks good.
Appreciate your comments.
Thanks, Heather, and thank you, Murray, for the answers as well. Just to note for everyone, we don't have any other hands up, unless Len, I suspect yours is a legacy hand.
No, I just put it up again.
Okay, I'll
Legacy
jump.
hand?
Like a leftover hand. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Stephanie, I just put it up again.
All right.
So
If
we
you
have,
don't mind,
okay.
I'm just going to jump to the one question, the Q&A, because I'd like to.
Yeah, please do, and you can come back to me.
Sounds perfect. Thanks so much, Len. So we have a question in the chat that's just on the timing of the build, with the concern that they were told on a meeting on the street renewal that building construction and street construction wouldn't be allowed to proceed at the same time, and whether spring 2023 is still the start date for the street renewal. So I believe I'll speak to part of that, and then of course if Marie and Jeff, you have an idea for timelines for your clients on the application, feel free to speak to them if you can. But for the street rebuild, so I know there was a public consultation this summer that said spring 2023 would be the date of the street rebuild. I think there's a possibility that was pushed to 2024 in recent months. But what I would suggest is I'm going to take that question and look into it with my colleague. It should be a relatively quick answer, but I don't want to totally, talk off the top of my head on, when it's been pushed to at this point. So to the person who asked the question, I'll just, type an answer to you and just ask that you get in contact with me so I can get you that answer in the next couple days, probably. But that would be that's what I've heard, but I'd like to double check it. I don't usually deal with the transportation matters in the ward. It's my colleague Ben, So he would have, his finger to the pulse on that. But I think I've heard that through the grapevine.
So
And-
Steph, that's my understanding as well, although if we're both wrong, maybe you could let us know as well. And to be clear, what the policy of the city is that they discourage anybody from going into a recently reconstructed road and install services. So as long as we've got services to this development in the ground before the city puts their top lift on of that reconstruction, then we're good to go. It's not the buildings don't have to be up, but the services need to be installed, and the services are the first thing that go in on any project in any event, so that as long as we get zoning and building permit and get the site serviced before the city lays top lift, we're fine. And I think we will be.
Thanks for that, Murray. I suspect then we might be on the same page, but if not, then we are both going to be learning some very new information on
Thank you.
how quickly that work will happen. And since we just got it, actually, I'll read a question and a comment that we've gotten from Anonymous that says 5 bike parking spots for 8 units. Some of which may have couples in them, seems skimpy. Is it possible to provide a larger bike parking unit? So put that to you, Murray and Jeff.
Yeah, so Jeff he alluded to this in his presentation that we may look at additional parking, but just to be clear, the requirement is under the zoning is 0.5 parking space, bicycle parking spaces per unit. So that'd be 4 spaces for building. Jeff indicated in his presentation, we're providing 5. We'll see if we can provide more. See how it plays out.
Thanks, Murray. And what I'd suggest to Anonymous as well is writing to Masha to provide those comments so that they're recorded and so that they can sort of officially be taken into consideration. But thank you, Murray and Jeff, for offering to take another look at it as well. In that case, Len, you're the only one with your hand up, and I'll say that as encouragement to anyone else who might want to put theirs up as well. But till then, the floor is yours again.
All right, just my my last comment. Anyway, I know there will be some cars coming out from these units for sure. And this is just to Stephanie. I know it came up on another project, is there some public parking that's going to be built in the area so people who have cars can walk shortly to maybe park a car, garage or something like that? I mean, is there in the plan? I don't know, but if we're going to be building a lot of these units without parking, and just look at the snow we have right now. I mean, I'm on an R1 street. It's pretty hard to park the cars when we had a ton of snow down. So the impact on some of these places, unless there's public parking available, I don't know if that's in the plan or not. I don't know if Heather knows, but
so just to make sure,
like a garage, what I'm talking about,
like a garage.
Yeah,
like not a communoto space or spaces or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
there has to be, and the majority of people may not. It may be going, hey, great, the LRT's there. This is a walkable community. I can take my bike out, depending on type of enthusiasm I have in the winter. But if I do have a car, is there a public garage going to be built? That's all I'm asking. I don't know, but that's my last question.
No, for sure. I'm not aware of anything, and I really don't think there is, given the proximity to LRT. It's pretty hard to rationalize it with basically the direction of city policy, provincial policy. As far as I know, it's just if there's changes to anything, maybe street parking, but no plans for a garage or anything like that, as far as I know. There's really just questions about, this build, and the one at just essentially, on the other side at Winona Picton, impacting some of the street parking on Picton, and I think possibly winding up Winona. I don't know.
Yeah,
But other
Steph,
than that,
we dealt with the Lower Byron, and I know
Yeah,
that becomes a
that was-
parking zone for some of the units on
Mhm.
Ravenhill. I've seen the
Mm.
people walk back and forth. I stood out there one night.
Mhm.
So some people will have vehicles, and
Mhm.
I'm all for, hey, we reduce the footprint, fine, but the reality is that cars will end up on the street, and they may end up in front of other people's places, as we felt at the AGM, where someone came up to me on another project. So I know it's all, hey, the plan, this is within code, this is within this, within that, got it, the route they want to go, but okay, we'll just see what happens, but that's fine.
Mhm.
Yep, thank you.
No problem, Len. No, I get the question. I know you've heard the answer probably from Jeff in a number of these meetings. So, I won't reiterate it too much for the benefit of anyone who also might have the same questions about parking or where to put parking, even if it's not necessarily right there, but in something like you're describing, like a garage, a parking lot. But at that point, where our answer starts, which is the direction sort of the city, of the official plan, of provincial policy, is not building really for parking, especially near transit, and sort of what ends up happening if we do see that parking happening. And I'm sure, this is where we hear disagreement at times. People will bring their cars sometimes, start parking on the street, and we see that fill up. And eventually they'll reach out to our office and they'll ask for help with finding a parking space or getting a permit. And I've been on the end of doing, the grunt work of being there to say, there's really nothing we can do. Like, you're going to have to find something else. And even if that's not an immediate solution, it's not something most people are willing to put up with for too long. And I think that's more or less the direction that we expect things to go. Worst case, if people bring cars, they might leave after some time, ideally. And what we do see, more of over time, especially, in the downtown core, where I think our numbers are something like 40–50% of people live without a car, is that people will look for builds with these no car builds. And that's really the policy answer to it. I know it's the boring one, and it's also the one that we hear disagreement about in this meeting, in other meetings, and they're absolutely legitimate in a case-by-case basis. But especially the closer and closer we get to transit, it gets harder and harder to make the case, either a parking lot or a garage, or more on parking on a site. Tends to be how it goes, but of course, everyone may disagree.
Yeah, Steph, I just wanted to say, no, thanks for organizing the meeting. I'm going to have to jump out in a minute. Murray and
No,
Jeff,
go ahead.
I think the project looks great. Let us know about construction. Again, neighbors are going to want to know if you're going to cut off the sidewalk and how all that's going to work. Like, let us know about that. I am a little worried about the water, but I'm assuming that the engineers have looked at your plan and that's all okay. I always say that about Westboro, because Westboro's kind of squishy and the water rolls down and all that. So, but I'm assuming you guys have looked after that. But in terms of the other stuff though, Steph, I mean, maybe someday some of these larger issues, not to keep this team here, but there are some of these larger issues that we wanted to talk about. I mean, how can we maximize, maybe we do need some sort of public lot like there is in the Glebe. Maybe a developer who's building a high rise could be encouraged to allow some public parking spaces. I don't know, but it's not something for Murray and Jeff to worry about at this meeting tonight. It's a bigger issue. It's the same with the amenities. I'm hoping that you know, we have Lions Park right near this building. So if we've got folks with kids in the building, and we very well might, you know, we're looking to bump up Lions Park and make it better. And that's a great thing about this building. It will be close to that. People can walk to the grocery. So it's going to be great for things like that. Just hoping that we can keep those amenities going. But as I say, it's not a topic of discussion for tonight with Murray and Jeff.
Thank you so much, Heather. And you know, we're happy to have that meeting with yourselves at the Westboro Community Association.
no,
Anyone else who might want to join.
The
I know
building
there's
is great,
questions.
and I hope people with, you know, with a kid, you know, if you've got folks with kids, it might be a good spot for that because it's so close to the park and things like that, and it's not too far from the school. So it's too bad it doesn't have any 2 bedrooms, but that's my usual complaint.
We hear you. You know, we're here backing the family sized options
Yeah,
when
well,
we
you
can.
know, as we know, I'm not going to say family size because that could gives people off in different directions. But
Fair enough.
yeah, it's nice to have 2 bedrooms, and so I don't know if it's too late for that, guys, but I always like to see a few larger units mixed in with the 1 bedroom. So thanks for
Right.
that.
Sorry, Len Tucker again. So what is the square footage of these units?
I don't know if we have the dimensions. I'll have to take a look, just if you can give me a moment.
For sure, Jeff. And maybe to echo Len's comment, we actually received the same question in the chat just now. So
Yeah.
many might be interested. But
We can take it back and send a note out. To
Yeah,
you,
just
Steph,
let us
or-
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what they are. We don't have the dimensions on these plans. We don't have detailed ones here. So my
Yeah,
apologies for not being able to answer that.
yeah, I'm seeing seniors or singles or couples, but that's about it. But you know, my wife and I had a small 2-bedroom condo until our first child arrived, and then we sold. But I just don't see. Heather and I agree on a lot of things, but I just can't see having kids in a 1-bedroom apartment. But anyway.
No, but sometimes people have to. So.
Yeah, oh, I get it. Yeah, and what's the rents? Anticipated rents on these units?
We would have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't imagine they're going to be cheap, because we have some on the southern side of Churchill, similar, and we're like for a 1-bedroom, you know, like $2,000, $2,500, something like that. Anyway, that's a lot of money. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's not part of the conversation. I'm just curious. That's all. Okay, thank you. No, and I appreciate Murray and Stephanie as I get to know you, and Heather. We've been working together. There's some commonality of issues that all of us bring to the table here. Warmth, livability, how transient the population may be. No, we're not being discriminatory, but we're just sort of trying to understand how we're renewing and changing this neighborhood. And yeah, I know I've been to, you know, very dense cities and that sort of thing. But it's a mix of units, and we're seeing a lot of whether high rise units like 1-bedroom studio with den. I mean, that's even really smaller. I mean, I'm sure there's been no bachelors here, but I'm sure the studio is the new term for the bachelor. Yeah, we already have a high proportion, over 60% of single person residences, and it's increasing. And then, of course, where I live in a single home, the prices are getting unaffordable for likes of me if I wanted to buy now. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it.
thanks, Lynn and Heather, for your questions and comments as well. Heather, I know you have to leave.
I
so-
have to kick off. I've got a script writing group to hang out with. So I will bid you all adieu. Thank you. Len
Thank
is
you
going to
so
stay on until the end, though. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
Awesome. Have a
Good night, Heather.
Good night, Heather. Talk again soon. Bye. She's great. Anyway, steady hand on the community association. Outstanding. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. So maybe I'll just say to the question on the size of the units specifically, to the person who asked the question, if you'd like to write us, we'd be able to get you in contact with Jeff and Murray pretty quickly to get that information. If it sounds like you guys might not have that on hand right now, but that would probably be the best way to go about getting it pretty fast.
I'd be fine, Steph, if that's the way it plays out. Thank you.
No problem. And with that, we only have one question left in the chat so far and no hands raised. So it's possible, you know, we might be winding things down soon, but this is where I start sort of my last plea, my last call to anyone who might be here. This is your chance to take any question or any comment that might be percolating, and just feel free to put your hand up or put in the chat, whichever suits you best, before, you know, we start the process of closing questions and, you know, redirecting people to the right place to get comments. And if the only time you realize, you know, what you want to say is after this meeting, you know, no time lost. So a question from Anonymous says, what's the plan for windows for the basement ? Units? Not sure what the case might be.
Thank you for the question. And the answer is this, that there are very large window wells proposed at both the front and the rear of the building, which will provide natural light to the basement units.
Do you have the elevations on that at all? Maybe just for the benefit of seeing it? I'm not sure.
Is there it's not going to be obvious, unfortunately, Steph, from these drawings,
Okay.
but yeah, you can see on the site plan, large window well at the back.
I see it, yeah. So the plan will be sort of that window well will be where the windows and the light will be coming in at those back areas.
Correct.
And then it's ground, is it ground level at the front, or there's no?
I'm having difficulty interpreting the drawing at the front. My recollection is that there were window wells at the front as well, but I may be wrong on that. Jeff, I don't know if you have any insight, but there's certainly the large window wells for the basement unit at the back.
We have a plan, so I should be able to find it out from there. Yes, there's at least a window. This is the rear here, so there's a window well there.
It's just a storage area at the front. It's not a unit at the front.
That's correct.
Okay.
So it's only in the back.
Okay, thank you for that. I wasn't sure what
Thanks,
the case
Jeff.
might
That
be there.
helps.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeff. Okay, I see what the case is and for that. Seeing no questions left, I'll pitch a question of my own. Out of curiosity, which side is the HVAC likely going on? Is it going to be in the easement sort of walkway in the middle between the two buildings, or will be facing to these sort of adjacent buildings?
I'm afraid neither Jeff or I know the answer to that question, so you might want to send us an email on that.
Okay. See, I guess that's where we're getting caught up here with the site plan and the zoning adjustments that we're making now. In that case,
Yeah.
I'll send that. I suspect people might ask that question and, you know, raise the usual concern of if the HVACs are put on the outside of the units, the disturbance, you know, it might have the neighbors. You've, I'm sure, heard it before.
Understood. Yeah, don't know the answer. Sorry.
No problem. I'll raise it now. I'll write you whenever that might become available in that case. Seeing no other questions, I'll sort of slowly start to wrap things up just to give sort of the time and space for anyone else to ask questions that might come up, you know, the next minute or two. I'll just say there's two people who sort of had lingering questions that we weren't able to answer. One with regards to the size of the individual units and one with regards to the timing of the Winona build. If you're not comfortable sharing your emails with myself personally, I would recommend that you just write us at jeff.lieber@ottawa.ca, and those are answers we can probably get for you fairly quickly. It's just not something I can really confirm on the spot, but I would like to get those answers for you. So to those folks who had questions, please do write us. I'll help you get that answer in this case of rebuild. And in the case of the individual units, we'll be able to make sure those end up in Jeff and Murray's hands. They'll be able to help answer the question. Otherwise, I think actually what I'll do is ask a question to Masha. If you'd be able to help just anyone who might be concerned about comment deadlines, you know, do they have to get in their comments now? Is that, you know, comment deadline that's on the application summary binding? I think that's some of the worries we hear sometimes. And maybe you can speak to what the process is, just, you know, very quickly. I don't want to keep you too much longer.
So usually the comments have to be like we're consolidating the comments during the first circulation, and they include the public ones. And we can accept them till certain point. Right now we're at the issue resolution and resubmission stage, so we're still accepting them, but like we're not notifying when we're not, like when we are proceeding to the report already. So at some point, like comments still can be accounted right now, but probably
sooner is better, probably.
Yeah, sooner is better for sure. And I will be communicating them at right now at like individual basis, just sending it to Jeff and Murray, because this week, later this week, I will submit the second comments to them from the technical agencies. So.
Okay.
And usually they're included, yeah. And I will provide some draft comments that I received today, but after that, probably there will be already the report preparation.
Sounds good. Thank you for that. I think, you know, obviously people are concerned. Timelines have to move a bit faster these days, obviously with all the changes through, you know, Bill 109 and whatnot. So in that case, what maybe I'll suggest to anyone at this meeting is trying to get their comments in if they can in, you know, the next week or so, knowing that you can still submit them after that, but it sounds like the timing might be especially good to get them in front of the right people at the right time. But of course, you know, nothing is binding. Technically, you can submit comments right up until the moment of the public meeting. It's just earlier is better in actually making them effective. And
to account in the design and for Murray to receive them and to communicate to the client, yes.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for confirming that, Masha. I really appreciate it.
No worries.
In that case, I've seen no more comments or hands up come up, so we're just going to go ahead and finish up this meeting. I'd just like to draw everyone's attention to just the last message I put in the chat. It has our office's email address for any follow-up questions. And then I'd also recommend to anyone in this meeting who's interested in getting their comments to Masha, take a look at the message as her email is there, but you can also find it on the DevApps page on the City of Ottawa website if you'd like to submit feedback that way. So with that, I think we'll finish this meeting up. I'll probably have this recording up by tomorrow, day after, if you know of any neighbors who couldn't make it and are interested in seeing it. Otherwise, thank you so much to everyone, the applicants, to the planner for taking time out of their evening to come to this meeting, and of course to all the residents who took time to attend as well. So have a lovely evening, everybody. It was great to see and speak with you all.
Thank you, Steph. You run a really good meeting. Appreciate